The number one question I get from people wanting to start a record label is not actually a question at all. In fact, it's more of a question that encompasses all of the questions that you could have about the music industry. And that is, where do I begin? How do I get started? People ask me this all the time, and I get it. If you go to my website, otherrecordlabels.com, I have tons of resources, probably too many resources. We cover every single nuanced topic of the music industry, but sometimes people just want to know where I should start. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to tackle 7. I boiled it down to 7 easy steps. Number 1, and then number 2, and then number 3, and so on. So we're going to go through that today. It's going to be super simple. And I'm actually going to put a resource together, these 7 steps in a PDF for you. Just go to otherrecordlabels.com/get started. That's otherrecordlabels.com/get started. It's a free download. Just the notes from today, like as I'm talking, these are the 7 steps you got to do. A huge shout out to my friends at Infinite Catalog for sponsoring today's video. They are the best way to manage your record label's royalties. This record label that you're about to build, you're going to need to make sure your artists get paid, and Infinite Catalog are the ones to help you do that. You can check them out by going to infinitecatalog.com/otherrecordlabels. I'll talk about them a little bit more later. Here's what I think are the first steps for getting started building a new record label. If you already have a record label, well, that's okay. I think you'll still find some helpful reminders in today's video, maybe some things you kind of forgot to do, or maybe you can just pat yourself on the back. Step 1, research. This is probably the easiest and funnest step. What I want you to do before you do anything, before you commit to anything about your record label, is just go and absorb as much as you can about record labels all over the world. How are you going to do that? Go to a record store, flip through records, look at the spine, look at the back, talk to the owner. Look at your own record collection, the CDs, the tapes, the vinyl. Go to Spotify and learn about record labels. Go to Bandcamp and search through record labels. What do you like? What do you dislike? Think about some of your favorite record labels that you've known growing up or recently. What do you like? What do you love? What do you think doesn't work? Listen to my interviews with record labels from all over the world of many genres. Don't make any plans here, okay? Just absorb what record labels are doing. Okay? Easy. Step 2, identify. There's 3 things I want you to identify. Number 1 is, what is your label's unique selling point? This is hugely important. In fact, everything I talk about today, this is the most important. You can't just start a record label that's like Universal Music. You can't just say, we do every genre, we're going to do millions of records, we're going to sell millions of records. Today, the riches are in the niches, which means, I don't know why Americans say niche like niche, but whatever. My point is that it's really important that you target your audience very specifically. The more specific, the better. We've talked on this show about Hydration Records, a gospel record label that not only focuses on gospel and Christian music, but actually more specifically like urban Afro beats and hip hop, really young and modern music. These guys have like narrowed down to a niche that like nobody else has put their finger on. But it may not be about the genre or even the meaning behind the lyrics. Your niche could be the format that you release. I've talked about this before. Maybe it's monthly 7-inch punk singles. Maybe it's spoken word on cassette. I don't know what it is. I don't care. And I've done videos about niches before. You can watch those. But it's so important that you don't come out of the gate saying, we are going to be a record label for everyone doing everything. That's not going to work. The fans today really want to cling to something meaningful. Now, you might create a record label that alienates a bunch of other types of fans. That's okay. I know that's hard to hear, but that's okay. It's more important that you find these diehard super fans. And you do that by committing to something unique about your record label. Another way to help you with that is to figure out your why. Why are you doing this? What is it that you love about the music industry? Is it about helping artists? I talked to a record label one time, and his passion was working with artists who struggled with their mental health. How specific is that? That has nothing to do with the music. Instead, he wanted to help people manage their creativity and their mental health. Incredible. That is something that he's hugely passionate about. So what are you hugely passionate about? Is it cool vinyl? Is it lo-fi beats? Is it hip hop from one specific city or one specific neighborhood in the city? I don't know what this is, but for you, this is your why. And your why, the thing that you're most passionate about, is it broad? Don't let it be broad. Don't say, I just think all artists deserve to be heard. That's great. So do I. Everybody does. But how about all artists in this one neighborhood, in this underappreciated city in France? That's better. So your why becomes your unique selling point. Another way to help you identify your unique selling point, and my third thing, is you might have an unfair advantage. What is that? Well, remember that gospel record label I told you about? Before they were a record label, they were a YouTube channel that shared music only within that specific niche genre. Eventually, they got over 300,000 subscribers, and they said, we should probably create a record label to feed our own machine. That was an unfair advantage. I knew someone who worked at a record pressing plant, and they got a huge discount on vinyl. That's an unfair advantage. I know a guy who works at a record store, and he wants to start his own record label. Well, he's already got 40 or 50 people every day coming into his store who love to buy records. Why not they be from his own label? Okay, moving on to number 3. Step number 3 is plan. First thing I want you to do is plan a launch date, but I want you to plan this launch date really far into the future. And by launch date, I mean launching your whole record label. So the first 3 steps, you haven't told anybody about this. You haven't really committed to anything. And so if you're watching this video, it's January 1st. Happy New Year, by the way. I'm actually recording this in the summer, whatever. When you're listening to this video, watching this video, whatever, if it's January 1st, let's pick a launch date that's really, really manageable, that gives you a ton of time to do everything. In fact, this is crazy. How about after Labor Day? How about fall, back to school season? Let's launch it. That gives us 9 months. That's how long it takes to make a human. That gives us 9 months to do everything I'm about to tell you in the next couple of steps. Whatever you pick, create a work-back schedule. I have another episode about this on my site, so you can search for it, but create a work-back schedule. That means we've picked a date, let's say September 5th after Labor Day, and now we work back from that date. So if we're at January 5th, we have 9 months. What are the things that need to happen working all the way back to now? That's a work-back schedule. Like I said, whatever you do or wherever you're listening to this, if you're listening to this in the summer or the fall, just make sure that you plan this far in advance. If you're like, I'm going to start a record label right now, that's going to launch it tomorrow or next week, you're not giving yourself the best shot. I know it's hard to hear, but trust me. Number 4 is brand. We got to create a brand. What's involved with that? Well, picking a name. That's obvious. And then when you've picked a name, registering that name on a .com and on some of the social media platforms and on Bandcamp. And we also need to get a logo, and we need to have a designer create a logo for us. But what's really important is that all 3 of those steps are connected very closely. What do I mean by that? Well, when you have a logo created, I think it's really important that you test out how that logo looks. Print it out, put it on a t-shirt, mock it up on the back of a vinyl, cut it down, cut it out small and put it on the spine of a real cassette tape. See what it looks like on a hat or a button or a hoodie. You might realize the name that I've picked for my label doesn't really work on a logo. Maybe you love the name, but this logo just isn't working for you. Maybe you love the name, but there's no .com available. Or anytime somebody searches it in Google, they find something completely unrelated, meaning it's going to be really hard for people to find your record label. You see what I mean? So when we brand our record label, we have to keep all 3 of these things in consideration: the logo, the SEO compatibility of the name, and the availability on social media platforms, and then what it looks like as a logo. All these things really matter. Step number 5 is engage. Engage with artists. This is your first time. Meet with an artist or band who shares your vision. Someone who is empathetic to the fact that you're new to this. Don't try to sign the biggest game in town. Share your new schedule with them. Remember, we're hypothetically pretending we're January 1st right now. You've done steps 1 through 4. We're in the middle to the end of January. You're meeting with a band now for coffee. Tell them you hope to launch the label in September, and maybe their first record was going to drop in October, November, and their first single will be sometime in September or October. Share that schedule with them and just show them, hey, I've got my stuff together here. Like, I know what I'm doing. I'm giving us a lot of lead time to make sure that this is all done properly. I think they'll be impressed by that. Try to find a band or an artist who's at the same stage of their career as you are with your record label and build this thing together. Then sign the deal, get a commitment from them that they're on board to commit to this schedule like you are. Step number 6, this is the fun part, create. Get a hold of the masters. Make sure the band has finished their recording, or wait until they have. Get the audio files, start to upload them to your digital distributor. Start the process of getting records made. Pick a release date, use that work back schedule model. Maybe the release date is near your launch date. Maybe it's further into the future. Give yourself lots of lead time and try to make something that fans can touch. Maybe it's just social media content or Spotify uploads, whatever. But ideally, it's something that they can touch and see that your record label's real, if it's merch or CDs or vinyl or tapes. And finally, step number 7, launch. And this is really important because you might get stuck at one of these steps, or you might get to step 7 and then just chicken out. I'm going to give you the secret to all of this in a second, so just bear with me, but have a launch party or have some sort of official launch. I had a launch party for my label 13 years ago. It was like probably, well, was it that? Yeah, it was a kind of soft launch, and then we did another one maybe like halfway through the first year. It was probably like one of my best musical memories. It was a great, great day. I have photos. I still look at them occasionally. Really memorable. You can connect this launch party with your first album release or EP release or single release, or you can separate them. It's up to you and the artists. And when you launch, make sure that you have a release schedule that you can commit to, something that's sustainable. We just did an episode about this recently. That doesn't have to be one record a week. It doesn't have to be one record a month. It could be one record a quarter, or 2 a year, or 1 a year. Just make sure it's something that fans can begin to rely on and look forward to from you. Remember, these are super fans who are really diehard about the super specific type of music or the meaning and the why behind your record label. Let's go back over these. Number 1, research. Number 2, identify. Number 3, plan. Number 4, brand. Number 5, engage. Number 6, create. And number 7, launch. Do it. Ship something. Make something happen. By the way, these 7 steps are the equivalent of you lacing up your shoes, having a drink of water, stepping up to the starting line, and waiting for the gun to go off. This is all like really essential, basic stuff. But before you start the actual marathon of running and building and growing your record label. So lower your expectations. This is just you getting started. What comes after this? What about marketing that release that we just talked about? What about the next release after that? What about making money, making a profit, or registering your business? I've done episodes all about that. You can find them on my site, otherrecordlabels.com. We talk about that more in depth in our big Record Label Academy. Come join. Today was more about getting started. But you can go a little bit deeper in our Facebook community, in our Record Label Academy, on our YouTube channel, on the podcast. But these are the steps that will help you step up to the starting line of what is going to be a very arduous but fun marathon. Another shout out to our friends at Infinite Catalog who are always there to help you do what is the most important thing, making sure your artists get paid. So go to infinitecatalog.com/otherrecordlabels to check them out. And if you want to download these 7 steps as a PDF, go to otherrecordlabels.com/get started. Thanks for watching.